The eyes are on the marquee Senate primaries this evening. We are watching a ton of other races as well, with Representative Christian Menefee giving his colleague and fellow Democrat Representative Al Green his first competitive primary fight in years. Here you see, with 67.6% of the vote in, he has a narrow lead, Christian Menefee, over Al Green. This race won a test of redistricting, also a test of generations. Christian Menefee, 37, Al Green, 78. He's just shy of that 50% needed to avoid a runoff. But again, folks, we have not called this race yet. They're still counting the votes. And joining us now is one of those candidates, Congressman Christian Menefee. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. You were just sworn in last month. Take us inside this race, because Congressman Al Green has been laser focused on an anti-Trump message. He was even ejected from the State of the Union. What is your closing argument, Congressman?
I'm the only candidate in this race who has fought back against Donald Trump and actually won. During my time as county attorney for the third largest county in the country, I took the Trump administration to court multiple times and beat them. And I think what people are looking for in this moment is not symbolic fights, not cosmetic fights for the purpose of making noise, but fights that are really going to lead to a change in people's lives. And when I beat the Trump administration, it was to protect healthcare programs right here in Harris County as our country becomes more and more unaffordable. So I'm excited. We're in a great position in this race, and I look forward to the rest of the results coming in.
Congressman, one of the other dynamics at play, as we don't have to tell you in your race, is this question of generational change, an argument that you've been making, obviously, and an argument that has some resonance here inside the Democratic Party writ large. Help us understand the case that you're trying to make to your district here.
What I've been talking about is how we need new and fresh strategies to fight back against the Trump administration and a Republican majority in Congress, which has ceded all of their power to the executive branch. And when I talk to people out in the street, that's exactly what they're saying, that they want the baton to be passed and that they're ready for new leadership that's going to take this district into the future. And so I look forward to continuing that fight. We've run an exclusively positive campaign focused on how I'm going to make life better for folks in the 18th Congressional District. And what's so incredible to me is I have never represented the vast majority of this district. I just got sworn in a few weeks ago. 60% of this district comes from Congressman Green's old district, yet we are still in first place, and I only have 3 weeks to my name in Congress. I think that's a testament to the work that we've done, to the hard campaign that we're running, and I look forward to the rest of the results coming in.
So then what do you say to the argument that your opponent is making, that experience matters here, that you got to be in the fight to take the fight to the White House?
The experience hasn't gotten as much. Despite all this experience that we've seen in Congress, the president is still launching an unsanctioned war on a foreign nation. Despite all this experience that we're supposedly seeing in Congress, America is still becoming more and more unaffordable while the president runs roughshod on our Constitution, on our laws, and on our norms. We would see the president being reined in, but we're not seeing that, and that's why people are ready to change directions.
You raise the war. Of course, we know that there is a partial government shutdown. A number of Republicans making the argument it's time to end that government shutdown, not funding DHS because of potential fights and threats here to the homeland. What do you make of that argument? Would you reopen and vote to fund DHS given the war in Iran and these potential for increased threats?
I would not. You don't get to violate the Constitution and then try to back your way into forcing funding of an agency that has terrorized people in our communities, including executing several people in the street in Minnesota. Congress needs to take back its power and do the thoughtful and appropriate thing, which is require that before the president of the United States can launch military strikes abroad, putting American troops at risk, and effectively declaring war on another nation, he must come to Congress and get permission. I think the argument that Republicans are making there is cowardly, and we should be focused on ensuring that the president is held accountable and is abiding by the Constitution.
You think go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when you look at the numbers here, Congressman, and Christian mentioned them at the top of this discussion here, do you think you will be, if you in fact hold on to this lead, do you think you'll be able to avoid a runoff? What are your internals showing on where this goes tonight?
There is no crystal ball in politics. What I'll tell you is that we have heard from folks throughout our communities, and the responses have been fantastic. People are excited about the change. and I'm up against a 20-year incumbent. And I just got elected to Congress a few weeks ago, yet we are in first place. I think what you're clearly saying is things are moving in a different direction. It is my hope that we hit 50% tonight, but even if we don't, I think a message has been sent loud and clear that folks are ready for change.
Let me just ask you about the Senate race, if I could. A Democrat hasn't won a Senate seat in Texas for more than 3 decades, as you know, Congressman. Who do you think is the stronger candidate to win in a general election? James Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett? And do you think Democrats can actually do it?
Both James and Jasmine have different strengths that I think are going to put us in a fantastic position to flip the state of Texas. I know that race is incredibly close right now. Both of them are dear friends, and I know that their heart is in the right place, and they will do everything they can to flip this state. My commitment is, regardless of who wins that race, I will be boots on the ground across the state of Texas, activating voters so that we can take it to John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, or whatever other crazy Republican comes out of that primary and flip this state.
A diplomatic response with your Democratic colleagues. Congressman, thank you. Appreciate you joining us.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.